Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. And we are here with the School of Politics and Law of Almaty Management University to talk about the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. And we are honored to have here with us Luzin Karchan, who is actually an Armenian postdoctoral researcher at the University of Lucerne in Switzerland. So thank you very much for your
Thank you
participation.
for the opportunity to talk about this conflict, which bothers us at the moment.
Thank you very much for your availability. So, Luzin, my first question is, could you briefly tell us about what is happening right now in Nagorno-Karabakh?
Okay, perhaps before starting, I just want to make two points clear, and then I answer your question. So I work in a Swiss university, but I am not representing an opinion of my university. It's a political science department, but today I talk as an Armenian who grew up also during the First War. And the second point, I want to make sure that I didn't study political science, or I didn't study law or international relations. In fact, I studied mathematics, so I will not be able to answer very specific questions on history, but I think I have enough knowledge to cover the whole conflict. So coming back to your question, what's happening now? I think the better answer would be for the question, what's happening the last month in the region. And as it happens, today is 27th of October, and it's exactly 1 month. So on 27th of September, we all woke up in the morning in different world. I think it's true for every Armenian in diaspora, in Armenia, and in Karabakh. And I believe it's also true for every person in Azerbaijan. So the war started on 27th of September. Was it unexpected? Perhaps the dimension was not so much expected, but we knew that Azerbaijan is spending millions, billions for military budget. Its military budget is much higher than the entire Armenian budget. The rhetoric of the Azerbaijani president for the last decades was going to that direction, that it was very maximalistic, that they want everything or nothing, and the peaceful negotiations were always around compromise. So one side compromises something, the second side compromises something else, guarantees something. So we always wanted. We were ready to compromise from the land perspective, but we wanted always the guarantee about Karabakh's safety and security. And because their rhetoric was always either everything, basically everything, then it was, and the military expenses, and also in July they had a military training with Turkish army, so it was expected. What was personally for me, when it's on 27th of September, I didn't imagine that after 1 month we would be still war, because in these last 30 years, after the war stopped in 1994, we always had these mini conflicts, mini wars. So we always had these attacks and defense, and so, but this time yes. So here I want to very briefly, like few points. Who started the war? So if you Google in any language, in English, in Russian, in Italian, whatever language, you will find both sides are accusing each other to start the war. So I just represent the situation and the logics of why should Armenians part start the war. So Armenia was in the middle of global pandemic, and in July, believe me, we were one of the worst countries for pandemic per capita. So, and we were preparing, in fact, for the fall as the entire world. And this is one question. Second question, the land was is inhabited by Armenians. It was peaceful. People were just in their daily life. So we don't intend any additional land, because we do not have capacity even for that land to inhabit or to do something. So, and it is and tell me another conflict that another side says that Armenia attacked and immediately defended itself. So if you are attacking military, like you are doing you are not immediately going back to defense. This makes no sense. So they accuse Armenia to attack, but already in July, when they had military training with Turkey, and the changing attitude of Erdogan explicitly talking about this conflict, it was clear that something will go on.
Okay, but can you explain us a bit what are the roots of this conflict?
Okay, so the roots are, we can go back to history, but it's always a question. If you want to understand a certain land, does it belong to this country, that country? And then people go back to history, to how long we should go back, 100 years, 20 years, 500 years, so how much? And this is not the point. Okay, Karabakh has so much cultural trace of Armenian that I don't need here to talk about history, because if a nation lives somewhere, it gives cultural traces. And because Armenia and Azerbaijan differ with culture, one is a Christian nation, another is a Muslim nation. So if you have abundance of very ancient churches in one place, or historic monuments, the Armenian alphabet is different. Armenian cemeteries are different. So I do not need here to go back to history, who Karabakh belongs to. Just the point when it was given to Azerbaijan. So let's go back just 100 years, not many years.
Earlier.
So it was given 100 years, like 100 years ago, Armenia and Azerbaijani force, we had brief independence before joining the Soviet Union. And at that time already, there were like clashes of both forces around 3 regions, in fact, Karabakh, Zangezur, and Nakhichevan. And when these 3 republics, Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, these Trans-Caucasian republics, joined Soviet Union, Stalin decided to decide the map itself. So what happened that Joseph Stalin gave Karabakh and Nakhichevan to Azerbaijan, and Zangezur stayed within Armenian borders. So at that very moment, when Stalin gave Karabakh region to Azerbaijan Soviet Republic, Karabakh was inhabited with 90 to 95% Armenian people. So you are giving a region with 95% of completely other religion, culture, ethnicity to another republic. So the reasons are different, but we are not arguing the decisions of Stalin as many other decisions to find their logic. So what happened during the Soviet period, that it had a status of autonomous oblasts. I don't know the correct translation for oblast.
This would be perfect, because here in Kazakhstan we use
a small autonomous part inside a Soviet republic. And within 70 years, I don't call it ethnic cleansing, but the Armenian population was decreasing, and there was a fear that it will have the same fate as Nakhichevan, where in fact every trace of Armenian culture was brutally was disappearing. And it started in 1988 when Gorbachev came. So there was a huge hope in Soviet Union that things are changing, people's voice are mattering, so you can voice, you can tell that I'm not happy in this surroundings and so on. And it started in 1988 with already ethnic cleansing in Baku, in the capital of Azerbaijan, and in Sumgait. So it was already clear in Baku and in Sumgait, well, in an extremely violent way, they were getting rid of Armenian population. And it was already clear that in Karabakh, they are not going to coexist together. So if they cannot coexist together, given that period of settings when Soviet Union was trembling already, then the Karabakh people with referendum decided to be outside of Azerbaijan Soviet Republic. And of course, Azerbaijan would disagree, and that's how the first war started in 90s, in fact. And in fact, I grew up with the first war.
Okay, and what's actually the difference between the first conflict and the current situation right now?
The first conflict, both countries were Soviet republics. So as per se, the Soviet Union had an army, Soviet army, but there was not such an understanding as Armenian army or Azeri army. So basically the two armies were developing during the war on the side. Then what is the similarity? The cause is the same. I think the cause is the same. What is different that I think, as much as I heard during this 1 month from Armenian side, that you could talk with old Azeri people who grew up in Soviet Union, but in these 30 years, there was such a dehumanizing indoctrination inside Azerbaijan that with the new generation, it's much more difficult to have peaceful talks. So it became like a religion to become anti-Armenian. So it's very different. This whereas before it was more tolerant.
So
and
the cultural framework is different now.
Yes, because after Soviet Union, we could say that we had similarities during Soviet Union. It's the same region, the same. Yeah, we could have the same kind of food or whatever. It's the same region. But I think after Soviet Union collapsed, these two countries went completely different ways. It's an autocracy in Azerbaijan. The human rights are, they don't have very good reports on many things. In Armenia was much better, and even in Karabakh was much better because Karabakh was had its elections, its presidency, its stuff. So what is very, very different, of course, it's the degree of information war.
Okay.
Because in 90s we didn't have even electricity to know what's going on in the army, and now every 5 minutes you update, every 5 minutes you are continuously dependent on the news from the war. And in 90s the concept of opponent, I'm still very, I still don't like to use the word enemy. The concept of opponent was very abstract. We didn't have direct access to them. And whereas now I can just, in every Facebook post, I can read hundreds of Azeris with all the hatred. So you see the direct access is, not direct access, but you know more about them.
Okay, and can I ask you, you already actually touch this point, but could you explain us what is the role played by external actors in this crisis?
So external actors, the role of Russia, it's not very surprising because Russia is also one of the parts of OSCE Minsk group with France and US. And what is different now is the role of Turkey. Turkey, of course, they always had this rhetoric that we have two nations, one country. No, two country, one nation. I don't remember one of them. And so they had full support and whatever, but explicitly military in such a heavy way, it is the first time. And it changed the sentiments in Armenia also. If there is one thing that every Armenian, independent of their political views, independent of their residency on every map, if you can unite all Armenians, it's the Turkish factor. If if Turkey is directly attacking Armenia, then the sentiment is extremely different because we are we have Armenian genocide, we have closed borders with Turkey, we have genocide not recognized, and the way they are telling it, they are framing it that we are continuing what our ancestors were left unfinished. I think if every country has this message, having these historical lines that we will continue what our ancestors didn't finish, I think this is creating extreme opposition from our side. And the second one, that it's the very first time that explicitly Turkey is doing what he did in Libya, what he did in Syria. They are moving these mercenaries from Syrian war to the region, and it has never, well, we had these rumors during the first war that they also have other people, but not at this degree, that thousands of mercenaries are moved to that region. There are already many videos, many audios when there are already many funerals of those Syrians in Syria they died in Karabakh. That changes completely the dimension. That also decreases any hope that Karabakh could coexist inside Azerbaijan, because for 1 month continuously they are bombing the cities, and if you bring terrorists to that land, it means that this coexistence is just on the paper.
Okay, last two questions very briefly. So one is, in your view, what is the most reasonable solution to stop this conflict?
If you follow the media, we had already 3 attempts of ceasefire.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
We had in Moscow 10 hours negotiation between 2 foreign ministers and foreign minister of Russia, 10 hours. And the day when they were negotiating, the defense minister of Turkey is telling I think he was in Italy at that time, telling that until the last Armenian doesn't come out from Karabakh, the question is not. So how much they ignore even these peace attempts from another country or between these 2 countries. So didn't help. The first ceasefire, I don't know, maybe lasted 40 minutes, I don't know. So second, third from the United States. So it's clear that the war is very difficult to stop. Mm-hmm. It will stop if one of the sides, we don't need, what is for me a victory, for me personally? For me, victory would be that this is the last generation of Armenian soldiers giving their life.
Have a bit low connection now.
Studies went to army, like died. So for me, the victory would be that this conflict is solved, that this is the last generation to give their lives. But unfortunately, the war doesn't have a switch to stop it now. And what is a solution? That both sides compromise. You cannot tell everything or nothing. So in our side, we know that we have a occupied regions which do not belong to Karabakh, but these are safety buffers for Karabakh, just defending Karabakh. We know that these regions, we are ready, at least some of them, which is not very essential for the corridor between Armenia and Karabakh. So we compromise, but they also have to compromise. So there are these two conflicts between integrity of a country, of a territory, and self-determination. And it's difficult to coexist these two together, but a compromise would be the solution. And
my last question, I mean, being an expatriate, what are your feelings to see that your country is in a status of war? I mean, this should be kind of very difficult situation for you and for all those who are in a similar situation like you.
I mean, perhaps you as an expat, you know, during the pandemic, what did it mean to be?
Yes, of
so
course.
I remind that we are in the middle of pandemic. The borders with Armenia are closed from Georgia, from Turkey, from Azerbaijan were anyway closed. So we are in the middle of pandemic and the country is in war and you cannot even go because there are no flights basically, or it's very, very limited. And it's extremely difficult. I think we all live in two parallel realities here. So it's difficult to combine because you live in another country. You cannot just go out and talk about the war with everyone. You can discuss, but you still have to do your daily job. And you continuously worry about your family. And it's living in two different parallels and feeling very helpless, because in everything you can help, you can organize something and so on. So the only way to help is to help the humanitarian crisis, because around 75,000 people now fled from Karabakh to Armenia. So this is the only way to help from abroad, just with financial help. I think we are all in the same situation. We can't go back because it's pandemic, it's dangerous, and yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Luzin, for your thought-provoking considerations. And for us, it was actually a great opportunity to listen to your perspective on this scenario. And I'm sure actually students, your students will appreciate your critical reflection.
I will be happy to, if someone is interested, they can contact me, or I can give contacts for other more qualified people on the topic.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay,
thank you.
Goodbye.